Shalom members, welcome back to the channel. 2030 is going to reshape Africa, Europe, and the US. This is the pattern that nobody really sees coming. We've been talking a lot about the ex-CIA people who are coming out and they're like, hey, I want to leave by 2030. They're picking up their families, but they're also telling the public and getting a lot of traction. They're telling people like, hey, I'm actually gonna up my plans. I thought this was so funny. I'm gonna up my plans to 2027. And you just have to sit back, digest that, and think, okay, what would make somebody say that is so diehard for America? And if you listen to the interviews, I like to listen to them in their entirety. They state that husband, wife, and children, they state that they will be leaving because what's coming next for America is going to be a time of trying darkness. I think it's so odd how people see this from a worldly perspective, but those who are supposed to have spiritual discerning eyes can't see it. I think when we see people who typically maybe wouldn't believe in Bible prophecy, or maybe they are different in their faith than you, even though they're still a Christian, they still believe in the Bible, maybe, you're like, but they still work in certain agencies and things like that. So you're like, I don't know what your level of faith is, but they hear enough of the Most High Yah to hear something telling them to leave. Now, obviously, these people, they look like they could be of Italian, Spanish descent, probably going to places like that. They did not explicitly say where they're going. They're probably not trying to make everybody follow them to that specific place because it would be a huge issue, especially having such a large following like they do. And they were even on the Diary of a CEO. I believe his name is Andrew Bustamante. 2 times, him and his wife, and they would talk about like things they had encountered and how America's different now, and how this issue, they define the issue is truly with Russia and China, but they say the issue is even less Russia and more so China. I don't know what kind of deeper stuff they know, but us who are spiritually discerning, we knew that 10 years ago. We knew that a long time ago. I remember being a child and my dad telling me, like, you're going to want to know Mandarin because the Chinese are going to be ruling a lot of the world. And, I'm who knows what that looks like or what that'll actually be like, what that means for America. But when I look at it, I think that you're going to see America's economy decimate even further in 2026. I think we're coming up on a time, especially when this guy, he said, I'm upping it, because he started his business, left the workforce so that he could actually have free time. That's why people start their businesses. They don't want to be strapped to a W-2. A W-2 is basically like chain wage slavery. Just be chained to this desk for 40 hours. Don't think for yourself. Don't have any real ownership. But he wanted that freedom, so he started his business. I think it was called Everyday Spy or something like that, and he teaches people those different spy whatever techniques that they be doing, okay? But it's interesting because 2027 is quite literally just a year away, if we're honest. It's November 30th right now, and so 2027 is like knocking on the door. And so the fact that a lot of people just feel like they aren't prepared or feel like they aren't connected to a neutral society, they feel like they're just going this alone in the dark, it actually does not have to be like that. We have the Mature Adult Intensive Cohort 4 coming up. Don't quote me on the date. I believe it's December 21st is the new one, or January for the Mature Adult Intensive. But there are so many resources out there, but 2030 is truly going to be that year that changes stuff for everybody. It's going to shape the entire world, and it's faster. It's happening quicker than most people can even emotionally process. Headlines make it feel kind of random, like a protest here, planes dropping out the sky over there, President Trump talking about Venezuelan airspace is shut down. Who knows what's going to happen next with that? Remember, there was that issue with Iran in the summer. Like, y'all take a deep breath. We can't even keep up at this rate. Can we even keep up? But for Europe, think about this. Europe has stability on paper. I want to make that very clear. A lot of Americans think I can flee to Europe and Europe's going to be the savior. There's a reason Americans fled Europe in the first place. Like, seriously, there's a reason Americans that were Europeans back then fled Europe in the first place. This is why I love historical analysis. This is why I love history. I love watching documentaries, just rehashing this information, because you can understand the times that are coming by understanding the past. And so Europe has stability on paper. We know about the Russia-Ukraine war, but do you know about Belarus? Do you know about Albania? Do you know these places that used to be in the Soviet Union? And you have to ask yourself, so what happens at the end of the Russia-Ukraine thing? Is it just going to be a peace deal that says this is enough? Or is it going to be the type of decision where Russia says, actually, we'd like to expand this federation again because they had the Soviet Union previously? Now, countries like Italy, Spain, and Germany, and Portugal are aging faster than their economies can even sustain. We have talked about this before. The birth crisis. These countries are not able to repopulate. This is why so many of them have immigrants. All these programs that are available to make it easy to come in and work there, to make it easy for you to get in, because a country that does not have people is not going to be a country. It's definitely not going to be a world superpower. And so their reign is coming to an end on that front, okay? Then we think about the EU's accelerated push for none other than the digital euro. We talk about that so much because it's a super controlled surveillance system. And like I was saying before, they're implementing it in South Africa. They're going to implement similar things in Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, Burkina Faso. There's actually a list of countries that are already ready for their own digital IDs that they have rebranded. They don't talk about this. I could go more in depth and do another video. If you want me to, just let me know down below. But here's the thing. By 2030, Europe is either going to reinvent itself or fracture under the weight of the contradictions. We have to understand the ages and the times. And I want you to also think about the video I did on the 12,000 year eruption of this volcano that had never erupted in 12,000 years, that had not been active in that time frame predating Adam and Eve. We are entering an era that's going to be unlike anything the earth has ever seen. We are entering an era where it's going to be the mark of the beast. We are entering an era where it's going to be AI ruling in government, AI telling you what to do. We are entering an era where the earth is going to cry out and moan, because the earth is like, what has humanity done to this place? Like, what is even happening right now? And so you want to get to your Goshen, your safe spot. My safe spot is Mauritius, Africa, and the Mascarene Islands. I love the Mascarene Islands. Again, if you want me to do a breakdown of what the Mascarene Islands are, since most people have literally no idea what they are, then I may do a video on that as well. You should subscribe to members only. But listen, Africa is the unexpected center of gravity. Africa is not just rising, but it's becoming the geopolitical center of the entire global future. Half of the world's population growth over the next 25 years will come from Africa. Half the world's population growth. By 2030, the continent will have the world's largest youth workforce. Now, economies like Mauritius, Ghana, Rwanda, Morocco, Botswana are building their economies with fintech, clean energy, and global trade. Foreign powers, China, the EU, Russia, India, and the US know this. That's why Africa has become the top target for investment, mineral investment, finance investment, digital infrastructure, manufacturing expansions, because the world is changing. Africa's getting younger, but the world is slowing down. Africa's accelerating. Okay, this is not a coincidence. It's the new center of global gravity that you and I are a part of. And this is the pattern that you are meant to see if you are listening to this video. When you connect these dots, a single timeline emerges. A single timeline. Now to 2030 or now to 2027. If you take what that ex-CIA guy said about 2027, that's just crazy to me. But with the AI revolution, I could definitely see it happening quicker. When you connect these dots, Europe is consolidating. The US is decentralizing, and Africa is accelerating. The global order is not collapsing, but it is rebalancing. By 2030, nations will fall into two countries, or to two types of societies: countries that prepared early for the shift, and countries that ignored the signs until it was too late. The people who thrive in the next decade won't be the loudest or the luckiest. They'll be the ones who had read the pattern and positioned themselves ahead of it. And right now, the pattern is quite clear. The world of 2030 is already being shaped today. This is why we see uprisings and wars and rumors of wars and all of these fractures taking place, because nations are trying to see who's going to be in this position. Western nations are collapsing and they're like, okay, I need to go to Venezuela and get some oil. I need to go down to Africa and get some of this cobalt. I need to go here and get this. I need to shift around and figure something out. Then the mass media campaigns they have out here, just understand, especially if you are a member on this channel, I want you to pay careful attention to media headlines that go viral. I want you to pay very close attention to the types of YouTube content that you're listening to, because there is a fear propaganda machine that wants you divided, stuck, and trapped. You may have plans to leave America, but if you intake too much content from people who do not know what they're doing, or have been plagued by having this spiritual sickness of perpetrating and putting out propaganda that's in alignment with the elite powers of the world to keep you frozen and stuck, then it's an issue. You need to become a free thinker. You need to actually assess and ask questions that make sense. You need to look at data. Data never lies. That's why I love statistics. I love data. If you want to know how safe a country is, look up the data. If you want to know how many births a country has, look at the data. If you want to see if a society is cashless or cash-based, look at the data. If you want to know how people are living in a country, look at the data. If you want to know the cost of living, start to look at the data. Start to understand what you're seeing. And, be more discerning about which countries you choose in Africa. That video we did about citizenship, these are things that we start to look into and think about. Again, typically, we go this deep because we have 5 children. Period. One of them is a teenager. And so they have to be able to maneuver through this world and ask the right questions, like, okay, are taxes going to be 45% of my income? That's going to be an issue. I don't really like that. That's a huge, when your taxes are this high, especially in West Africa, when your taxes are this high, East Africa doesn't have this issue as much. South Africa doesn't have it as much, or I should say Southern Africa. Mauritius is the absolute best. Seychelles, the absolute best. Low 15% flat corporate tax done. No extra hooligan shenanigans, jumping up and down bureaucracy, none of that. But when you're looking at these places and you're looking at these headlines and you're looking at what's happening and you're excited, ask questions that your children's children are going to thank you for. Make the decisions that your children's children will be happy that you made. Don't put them in a worse situation where they're owing all this stuff to the government. Now you're under a new system of governmental control that just has a black face. Anytime you see superseding taxes, that tells me that's a controlling country. Quite simply, this is why America left Europe in the first place, or Americans, I should say, left Europe in the first place when they were Europeans and they went over. Y'all know the story. This is why they did that, because they felt like Europe had superseding, controlling taxes. Now, if you look at these places, let's connect some dots. If you look at these places with these super high taxes, high corruption, maybe they get a lot of visitors. Maybe, it's like a nice place to visit, fantastic. Nice to visit and nice to live in every day are not the same. They're just not, especially if you're retired, especially if you have children, period. We think differently. Retired people and then people who have children and businesses, they're not just there for 20 days, 90 days, 6 months, hop back and forth. Like they're thinking a little bit more strategically. They're asking difficult questions that can set people off and make people uncomfortable. They're asking the difficult questions that a lot of these corrupt countries in Africa are gonna get mad at you for, okay? That's the reality of the situation, just to let you know. But if we look at the patterns, places in Africa that have very high tax rates, over 45%. South Africa, if you make over 48 $100,000 per year, you're taxed at 45%. If you stay longer than 6 months in the year. Burkina Faso, I think it's 35%. If you make over $8,000 a year, think about these things. Benin, Ghana, most of them in West Africa. Now, Botswana was a little bit lower at like 30%, okay? 30% isn't as low as 15% here in Mauritius, but that's your prerogative, that's your business. Do what you want to do. You do whatever you want to do, okay? Rwanda, I want to say, is like 25%. You can check these numbers. Rwanda was another lower one. Not as low as Mauritius, but a lower one. Not as low as Seychelles, but still a little bit lower. Places in Europe, Portugal, I think they have 45% taxes as well. These are questions that you need to ask. These are questions that you need to research before you even speak to any attorneys or any advisors or whoever that's a part of this agency and this. You should have an understanding of what the laws and what their logistics and what their rules are, so you can differentiate who's about to scam you and who's not about to scam you. Because in America, we have corrupt attorneys. I know in America, I've dealt with a lot of attorneys. Because of my dad's estate, I've dealt with attorneys for that. I've heard stories from my mom dealing with attorneys. Like, we know in America, attorneys, they're basically there to get your coins and get over on you. It's very rare in America that you will find a good attorney. And the same thing goes in Africa. It's very, very rare that you would find a good attorney. By the time you find a good attorney, it's probably your third or fourth try. So if you can come to a country like Mauritius that just is very transparent and has everything laid out for you, it makes it easier. So yeah, think about these things. Think about your children's children. Think about making the right decisions, because the earth is changing so quickly and you want to be aware. You want to be proactive. You want to have the right research. This is why we have the State of the Diaspora, the Mature Adult Intensive. There's nothing like it out there at all, because most people don't look at the safety, risk analysis, corruption indexes, true residence processes. They'll save it for like lawyers and attorneys, and it's like that stuff doesn't need to be like gate kept. That should be expressed openly. Not all countries express it openly, but Mauritius does. There's countries they won't express all the residences they have, or they won't even post them on their website. Like, if I can't find your residency process on your website, I'm uninterested in staying. Might visit you after I retire one day, but I mean, I'm just not that interested anymore in places that cannot be transparent. Think of moving to Africa as a business negotiation if you're a business owner. If you're not a business owner, I encourage you to watch the Introvert Marketer podcast, the business playlist. Learn how to negotiate, okay? Not like haggle people for like, oh, this tomato's $1.50. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about negotiate and understand the logistics behind what people are telling you, and say, you know what, this actually is not valuable for me at this time. You need to be able to make that decision for yourself to look the next 5 to 10 years and say, okay, is this country going to be valuable for me? Don't feel bad about it. Everybody's a human. Everybody has to be somewhere that makes sense for them. Is it going to be safe? Whew. An alert just came up on my iPad. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna have to do a whole nother video about this, because it's just an alert that I just got. We kind of talked about it already, but that is the alert. Alert, alert. Okay. So maybe we'll talk about that in the next video, but shalom, shalom. That's it for now. Do you want to say bye? Say bye. I'm Zakaria. You're so cute.